Welcome back to the Deal Mastery Insider. Today, I wanted to give you a sense of a deal pipeline and what it actually takes to get a business bought, to get a deal closed, and walk you through a full year of numbers of me doing deals. So these numbers are pretty interesting, and I wanted to show you exactly what it takes. So there's a couple key metrics here that we should look at. 2, 18, 96, 408, and 909. Right? So what do each of these things correspond to? Well, these are my deal metrics. For the year 2022, I tracked every single deal that I looked at and every single conversation that I had related to deals. Yeah, I'm kind of crazy like that. I'll show you what I mean by that in a second. But in 2022, I closed 2 new platform acquisitions. I submitted 18 LOIs. And I do want to clarify too, we didn't have 18 deals under LOI, and we only closed 2 of them. We submitted 18 of those. 2 of them signed and ultimately closed. So we submitted a number of LOIs that weren't accepted by sellers, and we had about a 10% acceptance rate. We did 96 deep dives. So 96 companies, and I consider a deep dive where I would, if it's listed with a broker, I would sign the NDA, I would go through the SIM, I would do a little bit of modeling work, I would do some analysis on the company versus just looking at something and saying, hey, that's not a fit, right? We looked at over 480 total deals, right? So that does include, hey, somebody sends me something, I look at it, say, not quite a fit. Of those 480 deals that I saw, I deep dove on 96 of those, or about 100 of them. I submitted an LOI on 18 of them, and I closed on ultimately 2 of them. The other stat that I think is really interesting here is how many deal conversations that I had. So what do I mean by a deal conversation? Well, I define a conversation as an in-person meeting or a phone call, also include like a Zoom call, but that excludes any text messages and emails. So 909 conversations related to these deals over the course of a full year, right? And so I want to impart upon you, that's a lot of conversations. That's a lot of phone calls, a lot of meetings, a lot of talking to people to get 2 deals across the finish line. Looking at it from a stats standpoint, you can see I had about almost 20 conversations a week. So if each of those, all of them weren't an hour long, but I mean, just to give you a sense, if you have 40 hours in a week, that could be half of a week just spent on just these deal conversations, right? So it depends on how much time you're dedicating to doing deals, whether or not you're actually moving the needle, whether you're getting transactions done and seeing some meaningful results. Of the 480 deals I looked at, I did a deep dive on about 20% of them. I submitted an LOI on just under 4% of them, and we ultimately bought about 0.5%, right? So to give you a sense, if you're looking at 10 deals or a deal a month, you're probably not seeing enough throughput to actually get a deal closed. You need to be looking at enough deals to then have some portion of those that are interesting enough to deep dive on, to then have some portion of those that are actually interesting enough to submit an offer on, to ultimately find a few deals that are really perfect, that fit, that there's alignment, and ultimately that you get closed. So I thought that was really interesting. Jen, that's for 2 deals, right? So if we divide that by 2, we can see, 454 conversations per deal. So about 450 per deal, 240 deals reviewed, 48 deep dives, or call it 50 deep dives for 1 deal, and about 11% hit rate on LOI submissions, right? So we're not afraid necessarily to submit an offer and see what folks think. And as you can see here, we had about a 10% hit rate on offers that we submitted. I also track, and I'll show you the metrics on this, conversations per week. So you can see here an average of 17, a low of 5, and a high of 53. How many conversations I had every single week. And I'll show you this here in a second. I actually still track this. But I basically keep this thing on my desk where I track every single week how many conversations I have related to whatever my top priorities were. In this case, it was doing deals. I still have the same sheet, still keep track. You can see it up there. And as of this week, I'm at, I don't know how many, but 10, 20, 30, 40, probably like 35 or 40. Last week I hit probably 55 or 60 conversations. So regularly having a ton of conversations with folks about deals, funding, getting them across the finish line, due diligence, etc. And so I wanted to show you this more than anything, just to show you what I call the deal mindset, which is really what it takes to actually buy a business, right? If you want to get deals done, right, you have to put the reps in. There's no way around it. You're going to get embarrassed, laughed at. People will think you're a moron, right? You're going to get rejected. If I looked at 500 deals, I submitted 20 offers, and only 2 of those were accepted and closed on, right? So if you think about that, 80% of the time, people were basically telling me no. And we still got 2 businesses purchased in that year, right? So the other lesson I think is really cool or is really important is this idea: the amount of work it takes is greater than the amount of work you think it takes, right? So if you're only looking at a handful of deals here and there, and you pull a couple broker listings and go through them, and you're wondering why you haven't closed a deal yet, you're probably not getting enough throughput in your pipeline, right? So the amount of work it takes is substantially larger than what you probably think it takes. And then lastly, this is one of my favorite quotes, is life only ever changes in the paradigm of action. If you want to create results, you have to do something differently. So the last thing I'll leave you with is, if you haven't checked it out, and you don't have enough deals in your pipeline, I do have a free training that's 23 plus deal flow strategies. I go through a number of these and break down in detail, like scripts, what I'm saying, how I'm sending it, all this kind of stuff. Here's a fancy screenshot of it. And you can get it for free at bit.ly/dealflow23. I'll throw that link in this email as well if you want to check it out. But at the end of the day, I really just wanted to share with you what an actual deal pipeline looks like. And if you're not getting enough deals in your pipeline, maybe I can help you get some more deal flow. Thank you for being a subscriber and checking out the Deal Mastery Insider, and I'll see you in our next edition.